This is Dr. Ron's Words of Wisdom, words on leadership, goal setting, productivity, and a whole lot more. I trust that today this will be like a vitamin or supplement for your mind and heart. And wherever you receive podcasts from, would you please subscribe to Dr. Ron's Words of Wisdom? Leave a rating and a brief written review. It will enable others to find this. Today I want to discuss the fact that you are responsible. Now, there is a tendency in the world we live in to try to find someone to blame. Leaders don't place blame, they take responsibility. Success on any major scale requires you to accept responsibility to take it on. To accept responsibility, you have to accept it and you have to take it on. It was Winston Churchill who said that the price of greatness is responsibility. I have 8 areas. We could have gone farther, but don't want to be overwhelming. But as a leader, there are several things that you're responsible for. The very first thing that I want to discuss is, leader, you are responsible for making courageous decisions. Notice I didn't just say make decisions. There are a lot of decisions that you and I have to make that about 95% of them could be done by almost anyone. It is that 5 to 10% is how you get paid, is why you are the leader. Because it's going to take courage. It's not going to be easy. You're going to have to do something, step out. You're going to open yourself up for criticism. And for many leaders, there's nothing more crippling than the idea of being criticized. If you're going to be a leader, you're going to be criticized. It was a football coach, Lou Holtz, who said, the folks who complain about the way the ball bounces are usually the people who dropped the ball. As a leader, you cannot afford the luxury of dropping the ball when it comes to having courage, when the facts are in, when it's apparent that a decision has to be made, and there is tension and stress, and there are some who want you to do one thing and some who want you to do something else. It is the courageous leader who just has to take it upon themselves. You are there not to make the easy decisions that anyone can make. They are a part of your responsibility. Leadership, friend, you are really where you are in your home, in your volunteer organization, where you work vocationally, to make the courageous decisions. The second one still has to do with the area of decisions. You're not only responsible to make the courageous decisions that absolutely must be made, you're responsible for making the long-term decisions. Oftentimes, most organizations only do what gets me through today, what gets me through this week, maybe what gets me through the quarter. You and I have to think long-term. Oftentimes, in the responsibility that I'm called on to do now, I have to come in and intercede in organizations because the leadership of that organization has kicked the can down the alley to the point now where we've lost the can and there is no more alley. And all of the easy answers and decisions have been tried and found wanting. And now you have to make really difficult decisions. Oftentimes that is because someone would not look long term and make the kinds of decisions that have to be made. What we do in those situations, I've been in them often, and I listen to what people who themselves are on leadership and governing boards, they begin to blame the former leaders, the past generation, the Congress, people in my position, people like their leader. Let me just go on record of stating this. All blame is a waste of time. No matter how much fault you find with someone else, and regardless of how much you want to blame them, and maybe they deserve most of it, it will not change the present circumstance, nor will it change you. The reality is where you live. So don't keep kicking the can down the alley. putting off making tough decisions, thinking by the time a tough decision has to be made, I'll be gone and it will be the responsibility of someone else. We need leaders who will make difficult decisions and long-term decisions. You know, way back when you began your leadership responsibility, you had big dreams. It's the poet Yeats who said, "In dreams begins responsibility." I love that quote of Yeats. In dreams begins responsibility. The moment you begin dreaming, the moment you begin to strategize and have plans, you have to take on responsibilities. So you're responsible to make courageous decisions. You're responsible to make long-term decisions. You're also responsible for the communication in your organization. Eventually, we all have to accept and take full and total responsibility for what has been done and what's not been done. One of the first mistakes that I used to make in the area of communication was the fact that I said something or sent out a memo or made an announcement, therefore I had communicated. I don't get to decide whether I have communicated. The folks who get to decide whether I have communicated are the folks who have received the communication. And oftentimes I found myself over the years wanting to blame them. You, as the leader, must take sole responsibility for communication. It's why we almost have to go into the mode of over-communicating. And we don't almost, we have to. Oftentimes, as the leader, we've been dealing with particular subject matter and issues for quite a long time. We've had to live with it, sleep with it, get up with it, look at it, adjust, tailor it, to the point that it's almost become a part of us, and we have this mistaken idea, since I have been working with this, and since I am so intimately related to this data and information, surely everyone else knows what I know, and they do not. So therefore, no matter how often you get tired of saying it, no matter how often you may feel like you are repeating yourself, it is your responsibility to communicate and to find ways to communicate clearly. Study communication. Study the ways that other leaders in your field communicate and disseminate information. Seek to get better. Ask for feedback. Did you understand the memo? Did you understand the announcement? Was the meeting such that it was explained, the process and what we're doing? Ask for feedback. Continue to hone the craft of communication. None of us ever arrive. You're a responsible leader to work as a team. It's not just up to you and me. We have to enlist others to come alongside and to help. Not one of us is as smart as all of us. And we need to lean on our team, and we need to give each other grace. We need to give each other insight. Don't just put people on your team who think and act exactly like you. We're looking for divergence of opinion, strengths, and gifts. People who see things just slightly differently than you and I see them will be a bonus and a benefit that will help both the organization, but ultimately will help us to fine-tune our leadership ability. It's wonderful to work as a team. When I started out, I was a solo person back before I'd ever heard the term. No one was using the term solopreneur. I did everything myself. Anything that happened, I did it. And I had fits and starts as I began to add staff and teams, and a lot of it was I was the biggest obstacle, and I had to learn and develop and study and talk to other people and observe others. And now I've come to the conclusion it's an awesome thing to work as a team. Leader, you are also responsible for problem solving. There are problems everywhere. All of us have problems. As someone said, all God's children got problems. We all have problems. Quit making excuses Quit affixing blame and take responsibility. It was George Washington Carver who said that 99% of all failures come from people who have a habit of making excuses. Stop with the excuse making. I have often said if we spend as much energy as we do devising and practicing and coming up with excuses as we did fixing things and problem solving, we would be a lot farther down the road. Your responsibility is to help solve problems. As a matter of fact, when someone will ask me about a place where I'm trying to place someone, they'll ask me, is it perfect? Are there any problems there? And I try to say to them, if it were a perfect place, someone would already be there. It is a myth that there is such a thing as a perfect assignment and a perfect place. Because all of our places have something to do with people, including yourself, there's always going to be problems. Leader, if you don't see yourself as a problem solver, you're really selling yourself short of why we need leaders. We need leaders for a host of reasons, but one of the primary ones is they help us to solve problems. Also, leader, you are responsible for moving past your past failures. Let's just take a time out for a moment and confess. All of us have messed up. All of us have had hatched schemes that blew up in our faces. All of us thought we had all of the information, and whether the timing was wrong or the information was skewed, things did not work out. And when we get to these disappointing times, there's always the temptation to give up. But you and I must take personal responsibility. You and I cannot change the circumstances where we find ourselves today. We have no control over the weather, the seasons, the wind, but there is one thing we have control over. It's ourselves and our attitude, and that we can pick ourselves up, dust ourselves off, and move ahead. Don't buy into, do not become a part of this blaming everything on everyone. The reason people blame the boss that was there before them, the previous generation, is, if you think about it, there's only one other choice. If I can't blame someone else, then I have to step up and I have to take responsibility and I have to begin to fix the mess that I find myself in. Move past your past failures. It's your responsibility. Now, the other thing that I would say is it's your responsibility to listen to people. I mean, really listen. Action springs not just from thought, but from our readiness to act. And because we are so action-oriented at times, we fail to stop and to listen. And really listen. It doesn't even mean you have to agree with them. It doesn't mean that you have to say, oh, I totally am wrong and you're right. But everyone needs to be valued and listened to. And finally, leader, you are responsible to put together a good team. And there is the idea. We talked about working as a team, but it's also your responsibility to develop a team, either promote from within or bring the right people in. There is a chemistry that goes along with being a part of a team. Again, don't pick people just exactly like you. Bring people in who can help you in areas where you are weak. Give them good coaching and give them the responsibility. Allow them leeway to get things done in the way that seems pleasing to them. It may seem ominous to tell you, my leadership friend, today that you're responsible for things, but it's not. It is the gateway to freedom when we take responsibility, quit blaming others, quit blaming the capricious events of life, and take responsibility for where we are and for the responsibilities that we have, and you can do this. You've been listening to Dr. Ron's Words of Wisdom, words on leadership, goal setting, productivity, and a whole lot more. I trust today this was like a vitamin or supplement for your mind and heart. And wherever you receive podcasts from, would you please subscribe to Dr. Ron's Words of Wisdom? leave a rating and a brief written review. Remember, my leadership friend, you are doing better than you think you are. You really are. And until next time, this is Dr. Ron saying, have a great and blessed day.